It's over 9,000!
Welcome, Super Elite Warriors, to Final Forum, a podcast for the discussion of all things Dragon Ball. I am your host, Jelly, an elite recruiting member of the Frieza Force on a mission to find the best warriors from across the galaxy to join the greatest army of all time, and I am joined, as always, by my new recruit co-host.
This is the Bekinney, and join us as we uncover the cultural inspirations and hidden history behind Akira Toriyama's seminal franchise.
And we've entered into geosynchronous orbit around a planet in the same system as Rigel Cantorus. Something to add?
We sat in orbit around this planet for, well, I honestly don't even know how long. Watching that display out the window, which we could have spent describing that beautiful display, the likes of which neither of us have ever seen, something we could have documented for all time and enthralled our listeners, not to mention Lord Frieza, who's supposedly listening to these podcasts, and instead, we just sat here and now we're starting a new show when there's nothing to see or describe out the window.
That's about the size of it, yeah.
Why?
That's something I couldn't possibly explain to you.
What about the listeners?
What about them?
Could you explain it to them?
I suppose I could, but why would I?
Because at the end of the previous episode, we teased them saying that we're going to describe what's outside our window this episode.
We can do that. Listeners, it's a planet, floating serenely in space. It appears to be largely rocky, with possible oceans, but it is a bit difficult to tell from this distance. Bekinney, would you say those are continents? What now?
I feel like you know what.
I'm describing what we're seeing.
But not what you promised you'd describe.
Are you calling me a liar?
I'm calling you whatever you want.
I don't know if I like that attitude, but...
But what?
But there's no time to ponder such things, because it's time to get into this week's topic. And this week we are going to get into Zenkai boosts and 10,000 reps and the Wizard of Oz. But first, we are going to get into 5 more episodes of Dragon Ball Z. But first, we're going to remind everyone at this point to hit up your podcatcher, your pod scraper, your Spotify, whatever you're listening to this on. Make sure you're subscribed. Throw us a like or a review or a rating or whatever. Help us out in those algorithms. Follow us on... You can follow us on all of our socials. We're on, I think, all of them. But we're mostly active on Blue Sky for a whole slew of reasons.
All right.
That all out of the way, we're going to do episodes, what is it, like
56 to 60.
That's what I thought.
All right, so let's kick it off. Starting with episode 56, titled Zarbon's Mission. So, quick recap. The Peanut Gallery is training with King Kai. Goku's doing some serious core work in deep space. Krillin just found a Dragon Ball, and Gohan is hot on the trail of another. Now, at this point, Vegeta escapes, and you can't see it, but I'm doing it with the air quotes. Vegeta escapes and Zarbon pursues, but in reality, he's actually stealing Frieza's Dragon Balls. Frieza figures it out a bit too late, and Vegeta lobs them into the distance and out of Frieza's control. Vegeta activates stealth mode and swims away from the ship in nearby water, thus not giving anybody a chance to follow him. And speaking of scuba diving, Gohan finally arrives at the destroyed village and, thanks to the Dragon Radar, sees through Vegeta's ploy. But not the genocide, though. I'm sure that won't crop up in weird ways in the future. Vegeta stops to catch his breath and locate his Dragon Balls. As luck would have it, he also happens to be in the path of a returning Krillin. Vegeta sees victory in his grasp and quickly takes off after him. Meanwhile, after Gohan has buried the dead and processed his trauma, he retrieves the Dragon Ball. Vegeta is still pursuing Krillin, and Krillin still somehow hasn't noticed, but they've now picked up a Zarbon tail as well. In deep space, it turns out Goku's ship is stuck in some sort of magnetic storm that's messing with the gravity machine, and Goku needs to shut it down, but it keeps jumping up to 100 times Earth's gravity. Back at HQ, Krillin arrives, Dragon Ball in tow, and completely unaware of how close to death he came. Vegeta shows up and demands that they stay right where they are while he wipes the floor with Zarbon. Oh, and Bulma is a total Kirk. That brings us to episode 57, titled Gohan the Hunted. So we open this episode on the Vegeta-Zarbon fight, right? Nope. Goku's currently struggling with body weight issues. Oolong, Puar, and Dr. Briefs watch helplessly from the remote camera floating some distance away from the ship, somehow. Goku struggles with his restraints and tries to blast his way out, only for the Kamehameha to succumb to gravity, despite it being powerful enough to push his ship away from a star earlier. Anyway, on Namek, Vegeta and Zarbon trade insults and finally start trading punches. Krillin tries to make a break for it, but Vegeta isn't having it. Zarbon eventually decides to go full Mr. Hyde. Bulma is no longer a Kirk. Or is she? Meanwhile, Goku sets himself to spin cycle and tries to break free of his restraints. With a little bit of Kaioken for extra kick, he manages to launch himself at the console, but still fails to turn it off. Left with the crushing weight of his failure and ribcage, he resolves to use his face to climb the console and turn off the gravity machine. Despite all this, Goku decides he can't wait to try it again. On Namek, Vegeta is up to dirty tactics again and soon shows Zarbon that round 2 is definitely going to be scored in his favor. Vegeta begins working the body, but before he can land that knockout hook, he just straight up disembowels Zarbon and then blows out his back. Assured of victory, Vegeta even decides to spare Krillin in exchange for the Dragon Ball. It looks like Krillin is banking on Gohan coming back with another. That leads us to episode 58, titled Unknown Enemies, which, funnily enough, I've been using the translated titles, but if you look at the original titles, this one actually just straight up gives away that it's the Ginyu Force.
They're like the, I don't know what to call them other than dub titles, because they're not the actual translations, right? They're made up titles used by the Funimation team. They're not like just straight translations. Yeah. Because like straight translations, like you said, are like just as a for instance, the previous episode, Gohan the Hunted, the straight literal translation was, "I'm back to my old self again. Goku takes on 100 times gravity."
They're kind of giving away the storyline in the title, which that's got to be a cultural thing, I'm assuming.
Probably.
Anyways, Krillin does a little game theory explaining his sacrifice to Bulma while Frieza stews on his ship. He's informed that the Ginyu Force is en route and will arrive soon. He then shoots the messenger. We get our first peek at Frieza's elite squadron as they take off from planet Namek. Their movement even catches King Kai's attention. He provides a lore dump on how these guys are the worst of the worst, and each are likely stronger than Goku. His training continues at 100 times gravity, while Gohan's education in psychopathy is just beginning. He and Vegeta happen to cross paths, and while he does manage to hide, Vegeta just flushes him out with the threat of murder. Gohan decides to face his death like a man, and Vegeta, just starts monologuing. But by the way, I missed this little tidbit in here. Gohan hides the Dragon Ball before he hops out, so Vegeta doesn't know that he has it. Mm-hmm. Guess he's also feeling especially grateful today as he decides to spare Gohan as well, but he'll soon be back for Earth. Gohan quickly collects his Dragon Ball and heads back, while Krillin and Bulma are waiting. They head out to find a new hiding spot while Vegeta realizes that his hubris may have just cost him. He races back to HQ, but it's already too late. The Earthlings have packed up and moved on. Krillin also has a trump card, getting Gohan to the Great Elder. That leads us to episode 59, titled Destination Guru. And it's a good thing they're headed for a Gohan power-up, because Vegeta's very unhappy and Frieza has his elite fighters on the way to lay down the law. Meanwhile, Bulma seems to be in the direct path of Vegeta's anger. Oh, never mind. It was all just a dream. The real Vegeta is nesting his 6 Dragon Balls while Frieza blows off some steam. Bulma gets into further shenanigans trying to babysit a Dragon Ball while Frieza starts a planet-shaking tantrum. Said shaking causes Bulma to lose her Dragon Ball into the ocean at this point. I'm not really sure if they're lakes or ocean. They all seem to be like
quite big and quite deep. And
yeah. So anyway, she pops out a submarine capsule and decides to go after it. She's startled by a large shadow and then panic fires a torpedo. Turns out the shadow is a large dino-like creature that has a Dragon Ball stuck in its scales. One torpedo later, and the ball's knocked loose. Out in space, Goku's 100 times gravity training is progressing at an insane rate. He's currently shooting himself with multiple Kamehameha waves. What an absolute psycho. He keeps working himself to near death, then eating a Senzu bean to recuperate. I feel like that's hacking a little bit for a Saiyan, but anyway. Bulma finds the Dragon Ball and a giant pearl. Greedy little piggy that she is, she decides to go for the pearl instead of securing the Dragon Ball. But instead of capturing the pearl, she instead upsets a giant clam who swims away, creating some sort of vortex sinkhole thing at the bottom of the ocean that takes her to another ocean under the ocean? Maybe a large cave? I'm not really sure. It's not well defined.
It's that second ocean that all oceans have.
Do you think maybe this is why they call it the ocean dub?
Boo.
She finds the ball again, but this time it's stuck in a clutch of giant crab eggs. Now, Mama Crab nearly crushes the sub, but not before Bulma deploys a capsule mech suit. The battle is fierce but short-lived. The crab suddenly stops as its eggs begin to hatch. There's like this landslide or rock slide that starts to happen, and Bulma manages to save the babies from the falling rocks and gains the Dragon Ball as a reward. And as soon as she surfaces, she is immediately captured by Frieza's men. So that leads us to episode 60, Bulma's Big Day. Wow, they're really focusing on Bulma. She's lamenting being captured and spends a weird amount of time, and reused animation, remembering some classic Dragon Ball scenes. She struggles and nearly escapes, but it seems her fate is sealed. She spills the beans on what the Dragon Balls are capable of, and uses the Soldier's Greed to keep them from turning her over to Frieza. Raspberry and Blueberry, that's those guys' names, take the bait and decide to do a bit more Dragon Ball searching before returning to base. In space, Goku's continuing to try and kill himself in the pursuit of strength. Bulma tries to lead Frieza's men on a wild goose chase underwater, and decides to lead them to the crab's nest again. So, she uses the crab's eggs as like dummy Dragon Balls to divert their attention from her and the real Dragon Ball. She then grabs the real Dragon Ball while they're distracted, then cuts her lights to escape in the darkness. Mama Crab, of course, takes care of the rest from there. Elsewhere, Krillin and Gohan decide to pick up the pace, which reveals them to Vegeta, and he gives chase while carrying a Dragon Ball as insurance against anybody trying to steal his. Elsewhere, Frieza patiently waits for the Ginyu Force and the Scouters that they are bringing. And that's it for this week.
5 decent episodes. There's some good happening here.
There's some good bits in there, particularly the parts of this part of the story that I like is how Toriyama positioned who has what Dragon Balls and when they capture them to kind of play this weird game of keep away.
Mm-hmm.
Which I like that portion. I didn't care for the Bulma parts as much, mostly because, and nothing against Bulma, like those would be perfectly serviceable episodes, especially like back in the Dragon Ball days. But it's like it's taking away from that tension of the boys being chased by Vegeta, and that's really what you want to be following. But instead, you're distracted with Bulma for like an episode and a half.
Right. It's the placement of it more than anything else.
Yeah.
We've talked about like yes, if that was a whole filler episode that happened like, I don't know, we'll just say like the instant they got to Namek.
Yeah.
It'd be basically fine. But when it's plunked in between all this tension that's going on with like the will they won't they Dragon Ball stuff that's going on, it does like take away from a lot of that. You know, you get like in these episodes you get that moment of Vegeta's rage, which is incredible. It's like one of my favorite moments, especially the Brian Drummond performance of it is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then you like, not immediately, but like you cut to Bulma goofing around underwater, and it's like,
Yeah, it immediately undercuts the tension that you're building.
Yeah. And I get it, right? And that's we'll be talking about it more and more. We have like a whole convention panel that we have like ready to go that I just need to like apply to present at more conventions. Doing the math on filler. I don't remember the exact numbers, but they have started getting very, 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 very scarily close to the manga at this point. Within 20 weeks, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
The turnaround time on taking a chapter and turning it into an episode is about 12 weeks. So you're getting very close. And especially because when you started doing Dragon Ball, the manga had been running for like 3 years. So you had like 150 some week gap. And that is now down to 20.
Oof,
so I get it. But at the same time, it is just like, it's a fact of the show. It gets a little bogged down at times. But you do have some really good stuff. You have the Zarbon and Vegeta battle. You have... I like Vegeta like terrorizing Bulma, actually. It's
because I think it was a great way to kind of show her mental state at this point in time.
Yeah. And I like him still being that like big boogeyman type of thing, right? Like that even though it's fillery, that moment where she's having the dream, the nightmare about like Vegeta with the red eyes coming and like attacking. I like that you're carrying over like Vegeta PTSD basically, right? And that and that his menace still lurks over the whole thing, because what that all really helps to do is in our next batch of episodes, Vegeta's going to do something that the characters all say, "Wow, Vegeta, we didn't think you would do that." And it sells it really well.
Yeah.
Because you've still been building him as this like terrible menace.
And it's also fun, especially on the rewatch, to remember like where those two characters end up.
Yes.
And this is where they start. This is before Vegeta's even met Bulma. Like this is just Vegeta's, I guess, reputation.
Yeah.
And then he finally does show up, and then like her focus isn't even him when he first shows up. It's how cute Zarbon is.
Yeah.
This is one hell of a meet cute, really.
Yeah, she doesn't even start hitting on Vegeta yet.
Not even a little bit.
It's not until this is it. It's like when this arc is over, right? And she's like, "Why don't you hang out? You're kind of cute." Like,
yeah.
But yeah, mostly good episodes. Like there's some very good stuff in here. Although I will say the episode titles are garbage. Can we get that out of the way? This is where the episode titles start like almost feeling like they're an episode off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like especially this is going to especially happen in the next batch of episodes, and I can't think what the titles explicitly are, but there'll be episodes that say like a thing, and that actually happens in the next episode. Also, Gohan the Hunted might be the worst episode title, considering what was it? Was it 10 episodes ago, maybe less, that you had an episode called The Hunted?
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
When Dodoria was trying to track down Gohan and Krillin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but see, it's just Gohan being hunted this time. It's totally different.
It's the legally distinct hunted?
Yeah. They were afraid they were copyright infringing on themselves. That's why they put Gohan, the hunted.
You couldn't come up with something better. You know, that's a...
Yeah.
Especially because that episode doesn't even feature Gohan. That's an episode that does not even feature Gohan, like, being hunted at all.
Yeah, no, he just kind of, like, accidentally runs into him.
So, but before we get into some of our topics around these episodes, let's clean something up, actually. I'm all about constantly pushing forward, and there's plenty more that we haven't covered ahead of us than we have covered behind us. But I saw a really interesting comment. I wish I could remember who made it, but nevertheless, I wanted to touch on it. Anytime I hear or see something really interesting, even if it's about something we've already covered, that either gives us some new light to shed on it, or a new avenue of discussion, or in this case, I found like some really interesting new research and connections and things, I want to talk about it, because I want to make sure we give it its due discourse. So we're going to go all the way back to the very first arc of Dragon Ball. And we talked about all the possible cultural inspirations and touchstones, or did we? Consider this. Back in the Pilaf arc, Yamcha and Bulma both befriend a young person who's been caught up in this adventure unwittingly. And why? Because they both want to make a wish on the Dragon Balls. They're seeking a magical answer to a problem that ultimately they could and do solve themselves via their adventure. What if I rephrase that slightly? What they're looking for is not just a boyfriend and girlfriend, respectively, but they're wishing, if I only had a heart.
Oh, hey. I see where you're going with this.
I think suggesting that there's a bit of inspiration potential from the Wizard of Oz at play here is not out of line at all. Characters looking for a magical answer to a question that they could already solve themselves. This is a like shining example of the like it was with you all along type of trope and we've seen Dragon Ball actually play with this before with things like the sacred water, so it's not afraid to play with this trope. And the trope
I like to call it the there's no secret ingredient trope.
The secret ingredient is water.
There is no secret ingredient, just like in Kung Fu Panda, there is no secret ingredient.
Except the
it was
secret
with
ingredient
you all along.
Except the secret ingredient is always cough syrup.
Well,
that's
if you want to have a fun time on a budget, I guess.
If you want to make a flaming mo.
Yes, the flaming mo.
But so this trope is older than the printed word and has been around since at least medieval times, perhaps first appearing in writing in the Persian poem The Conference of the Birds, or Speech of the Birds, a title taken from the Quran, actually, where Solomon and David, who are Jewish prophets, but guess what? The Quran is, and Jews and Muslims and Christians all worship the same God. Just awesome that they all hate.
I can feel the angry tweets coming already.
Awesome that they all hate each other. But this title was taken from the Quran, where Solomon and David are said to have been taught the language of the birds. Now, in this poem, which really just shares its title with the Quran, the birds of the world gather together to decide who will be their leader. They undertake a quest to find Simorg, a legendary bird of great power, and in undergoing many trials and tribulations, ultimately only 30 birds face all the adversity and survive and carry it through all the way to the end and get to where they were like prophesied that they had to go, upon which they realize that they collectively are Simorg, as Si or Sai or whatever it is in Aramaic or Arabic means 30, and Morg means bird. So they are the 30 bird. It's not the dirty bird. The old Atlanta Falcons touchdown celebration.
I was going to say, yeah. The Atlanta Falcons are the Simorg.
Interestingly, this trope likely evolved from the Bluebird of Happiness trope, which has some really interesting background that we can get into. So this, again, assuming that Toriyama may have possibly been thinking Wizard of Oz, and Wizard of Oz plays off the "it was with you all along" trope, and the "if it was with you all along" trope plays off of the Bluebird of Happiness trope. As early as 1700 BC, myths of blue birds existed in China, detailing a blue bird as a messenger of the goddess Zhi Wangmu, the Queen Mother of the West, who also actually appears in Journey to the West.
Nice.
See?
Full
See
circle.
how this all works? Also, just to be thorough, Native Americans have various myths about bluebirds being associated with the sun, either as a harbinger of the rising sun or as the son of the sun, S-O-N of the S-U-N. Likewise, Eastern European folklore has an interest in bluebirds that would make its way west until the legend, lore, and oral tales were adapted into a play named The Bluebird by Maurice Maeterlinck, which featured two children going on a quest to find a bluebird to help a sick neighbor, only to fail but return home and find out that the bluebird was in their own home all along when they get home, and they're able to save their sick friend. This is the origin of the idiom and the axiom about a bluebird of happiness being a thing you think you need, only to find out that you had it all along. But keeping into the idea that this actually ties into Journey to the West
makes it completely legitimate to talk about.
Yes.
So, before we get into the little kernels we have for this batch of episodes, let's talk a little bit more about Zhi Wangmu, the Chinese Queen Mother of the West. Her origins date back to Shang Dynasty bone carving inscriptions describing this Western mother, which suggests she predates Taoism, though she has become most closely associated with Taoism. Zhi Wangmu was considered the high deity in some Chinese Salvationist religions, which are sects. There's a T there. Characterized
and a C.
Yes, and a C. Characterized by concern for salvation of the individual and society, and are distinct from Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism in that they have a specific singular theology written in holy texts. Belief in an apocalypse, they have emphasis on evangelism and a belief in a singular supreme deity. But that's a little bit of an oversimplification, but we're already kind of on a tangent, so let's not get too lost in all of the other stuff.
We could, though. There's a whole bunch of interesting rabbit holes you can travel down if you're interested in it, about these Salvationist sects, whether or not they are like the fourth pillar of Chinese religion, and you're
talking about like the history of an ancient religion. Like there's
a
lot going on there.
Lost.
But no need to keep pulling at that thread.
Yeah.
Although maybe it could get this whole podcast to unravel and I'd be free.
Hey.
Anyway, Zhi Wangmu is a goddess of Western China, symbolized often by the Big Dipper, and is also often associated with the Peaches of Immortality.
Like
it is said, yes, exactly. It is said that she has obtained the Tao. Nobody knows her beginning and nobody knows her end, and that she may even have been the superior of Lao Tzu. Zhi Wangmu became especially important to Chinese women who did not embody the standard prototypical submissive woman. To these women, she was seen as independent and strong, who exerted control and dominance over men when necessary. We might wonder if perhaps the notion of this powerful goddess is some of what was being played with during the Eightfold Furnace episodes at the end of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, where we talked about
maybe there were some plot lines there that they were thinking of playing with, and they decided to just drop it, maybe.
Well, or we talked about I can't remember the character's name anymore. The girl who's like the keeper of the Eightfold Furnace, and we were like, oh, she's like a female version of Lao Tzu, and a subversion of Lao Tzu.
When maybe instead it was actually Zhi Wangmu.
Yeah, there's some possibility. I don't know enough about all this to know.
I mean, we're still learning,
and
so
hopefully
I think everyone else is learning too.
I think it's all just interesting, right? It's all very, very just interesting stuff to think about. Someone says, "Hey, Bulma and Yamcha seem like they're Wizard of Oz-esque, the magical solution to an ordinary problem that they already have the solution to." Yeah, and you kind of trace that back, and all of a sudden you realize, hey, that's also like a Journey to the West thing, kind of, a little bit. It's in there, at least.
It is surprising how many layers you could really go down if you really want to get nuts with it.
Yeah, it's. I think it's fun. Plus, that's the whole point of our show, so.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we're doing this for fun. Maybe other people will want to do it for fun.
Yeah. Okay. Now that that's all set, we're all caught up back up again. We could do a Krillin episode. We still haven't done that. We could do a Gohan episode. We haven't done that. We could do a Bulma episode. We haven't done that. But instead, let's talk about Zenkai boosts, since they're something of a theme in these episodes. This is where Vegeta says, "Oh, after a Saiyan recovers from near death, he's even stronger than before."
That's a pretty good Vegeta.
And then he decimates Zarbon.
Yeah, or if you're like Goku, you're just using it as a game-breaking bug.
And then Vegeta's going to use it later on when they're fighting against Frieza, and
he's not above hacking to get the power that he wants.
Right. So first of all, the name Zenkai is a fan-made term that has never been officially used by anyone involved with the franchise in any official way. And it's meant to give a term to the oft-repeated notion that Saiyans recovering from near death are given a massive power boost. Beyond that, very, very little can actually be said about it, because the use of the word is entirely fan-made. Because Japan has a lot of homophones, it's actually likely a mistranslation of sorts. So the word Zenkai, if you've been paying attention as episodes end, is used in the ending theme of the show. They talk about like Zenkai power if you're watching the show, the end.
Mm-hmm.
However, in the context it's used in the ending, it likely means something along the lines of fully open or full throttle, meaning the characters fighting at Zenkai power is full power. There's ways to build a word in Japanese that sounds like Zenkai, that means full recovery, with a connotation that it's not just full, but better than before. This, I guess maybe mistranslation, is likely the origins of fans using it to describe the power boost Saiyans get after that near-death experience, as explained by Vegeta in these and some later episodes. As the franchise has moved on, the usage of Zenkai boosts, which I'm just going to keep calling them that because it's faster than saying the full phrase of what it is, has become almost non-existent, and a lot of fans kind of wonder why. I could provide, I think, an in-universe reason as well as another reason that gets a little blue.
Okay.
As I am wont to do. First, the in-universe reason. Simply put, everyone has found better, more reliable ways of getting power increases. Remember, this is something that's mostly, at least knowledgeably, being exploited and used by Vegeta at this point. Yes, we're seeing Goku do it to some extent, but aside from the one, he's never really near death. He's more just using the sensu beans to recover his strength after a particularly harsh training session.
Mm-hmm.
Vegeta has just learned how to harness ki in terms of how to raise and lower it, like at will, and how to sense it. He's not yet well connected with the mental or spiritual aspects of his training, only the physical. Saiyans do still get Zenkai in Super and Beyond or whatever. They're said to get stronger after battles all the time, but there are just frankly better ways to get these power boosts for them now. It's like the rationale behind dropping the Ozaru form. Why go Ozaru when you can go Super Saiyan? Why rely on a Zenkai boost when you could train in the room of spirit and time, aka the hyperbolic time chamber, and tap into the spiritual aspect, which is more important than the physical?
Makes sense.
And then also, I think even if you want to maybe argue, well, recovering from near death, that's you getting in touch with the spiritual aspect. I would say it's an unknowing way. Like Vegeta was tapping into his spiritual side without knowing he was, because he was nearly dead. These days he can consciously tap into that spiritual aspect of his training.
Yeah.
Now, as for my other reason, bear with me here just a little bit. But
okay.
A Zenkai necessitates the Saiyan being near death. This seems like a pretty risky way to go about getting a power boost. If you're not able to be immediately healed, you're going to wind up in a lot of trouble, just like erotic asphyxiation.
Okay, well, now you have my full attention.
Phrasing. So, inducing hypoxia via lack of oxygen can lead to feelings of euphoria and mild hallucinations. Some report that this can enhance or intensify the feelings experienced during, let's say, romantic situations in order to keep this podcast as non-rated R as possible.
Okay.
So please note, Final Forum does not condone this practice, and as stated in previous episodes, we are not a medical podcast. Neither of us have medical degrees, and we do not recommend saying to your friends, I heard about this on Final Forum, before wrapping a belt around your neck. Please. Point is, maybe it works, but there's a lot of risk involved, and most people aren't quite willing to play that level of risk-reward scenario out.
Unless you're David Carradine.
Hey, maybe that's what he was going for, and look what happened.
He was trying to get a Zenkai boost. Also, I think that's what I'm going to call it from now on. Anytime anybody brings up autoerotic asphyxiation, I go, oh, you mean they were going for a Zenkai boost? Thank you for giving me that. so that I can now give it to others in the future.
From the podcast that brought you Witches Fly on Dildos
and Tanukis
comes autoerotic asphyxiation is the human version of Zenkai.
Fantastic.
Another thing we see in these episodes, multiple times, if you're watching the English dub at least, I'm not sure if this is in the Japanese. You've been watching the Japanese, but so maybe you could tell me, but is Goku doing 10,000 reps of moves?
Correct.
So yeah, explicitly, he'll do like 10,000 reps of a few different things at a given gravity before deciding that means he's mastered that gravity multiplier and it's time to move on to the next one. He does, what we see is like crunches, punches, something else, the handstand push-up things.
Yeah, where it's, I call them vertical push-ups. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah. This actually maybe comes from somewhere and has relevance to another thing that people may have heard of. So let's talk about those things a little bit.
All right. So first, where this comes from and where we think it might come from. So Bruce Lee had a famous quote that said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." This in itself comes from an old rule of thumb in martial arts that says 1,000 repetitions will help a student get the basic idea of a movement, and 10,000 repetitions will help them master it. The general idea here being that focused, constant practice and repetition are the best way to ingrain something so deeply within you that you can do it without thinking. Now, there's some obvious truth to this. Think really about some of the basic things you do probably every day. Literal basic things. Walking, reading, speaking, breathing. There's very little that a human person can do on pure instinct without having any practice at all.
Breathing is maybe one of those, right? But
well, I mean, some days I wonder if I have actually mastered breathing or not.
But like, you breathe without thinking about it, and you walk without thinking about it. But at one time, watch a like, I don't even want to say like a newborn, like a person who's just like a little baby who's just starting to walk, but really watch like someone who has been walking for maybe 2 or 3 months. So you're around that like 15 to 18 month old range. Watch them walk. They are planning out their movement from like one couch to the next.
Oh yeah. And then the actual movement it's like they're drunk.
Yes. And it's difficult and they're concentrating as hard as they can just to walk.
Yeah. So, by the way, if anybody wants, basic math says that if a move takes about 5 seconds to perform, it takes about 14 hours in total to complete 10,000 reps. So if anybody wants to try to calculate whether Goku had enough time to complete 10,000 reps of all of these moves, the punching, the crunches, the push-ups, etc., and at each of the distinct gravity points we see, feel free to knock yourself out armed with that information.
Someone more interested in it than me.
It's somebody that wants to actually take the time to do it. We didn't really want to. So, seeing these 10,000 reps also had us thinking of the famous or infamous 10,000 hours rule as popularized by Malcolm Gladwell in his 2008 book Outliers, which is meant to be an examination of the factors that contribute to high levels of success. Among these, and very prominently throughout the book, Gladwell repeatedly mentions the 10,000 hour rule. He claims the key to achieving success in any skill is to a large extent a matter of practicing correctly for 10,000 hours. This comes from a paper written by Anders Ericsson, who is a Swedish psychologist, professor, and researcher into the nature of expertise in human performance. In his 1993 paper, Anders states that expert violinists derive their talent not from innate abilities, but rather from large amounts of deliberate practice over a period of 10 years or more. Though Gladwell took Ericsson's findings as the basis for his book, Ericsson himself said that Gladwell's conclusions and usage were wrong in several ways. Ericsson found that 10,000 as an average number of deliberate, well-taught practice hours that the violinists had achieved by the age of 20, at which point none of them were masters. And also finds that Gladwell does not do a good enough job of delineating between deliberate, well-informed practice and mere repetition. Additionally, despite the clear importance of practice in mastering a skill, Case Western University professor of psychology, Brooke McNamara, performed a comprehensive review of over 9,000 research papers about practice relating to acquiring skills. The findings of this study were that practice was only a single factor at play in achieving mastery and dominance in a field, and by no means the most important. Practice explains greater performance in games like chess about 26% of the time, 21% for music, 18% for sports, 4% for education, and less than 1% for general office professionals. And that genetic and environmental factors play a significant role as well. Natural predisposition to certain skills, access to resources, desire, and supportive environments play key roles, more key than practice in success at a skill. So while nobody will ever argue the importance of practice, it's interesting to think about the different factors at play beyond just hard work in achieving progress.
Yeah, it's like one of the, like, that's what I thought of. I was like, 10,000. It's always 10,000. And I was like, I wonder. All right, so it made me think of that 10,000 hours rule because I feel like I saw that somewhere recently, actually.
I'm sure there's probably a social media grifter who's pushing similar ideas.
And as I say, I feel like I've heard it like just kind of parroted very often. And it is one of those things like practice will help you be, I'll say like practice will help you be better than other people who have a similar everything else, right? A similar predisposition to a thing, a similar access to the same level of resources, and a similar environment in which you are entering that thing. And, you know, I think like games is almost like a really good example. You practice all day long at video games, even. You practice all day long at Halo, and if your internet connection sucks, you are not winning any online games.
Are you speaking from personal experience?
No. Because I've always been bad at it anyways. And that's another thing. Like you practice all day, you're not going to be better than people who just kind of have that natural like hand-eye coordination to them. Studies have been done showing that like a lot of baseball players don't have 20/20 vision. They have like 20/13 vision, which means they can see at 20 feet like you would see at 13 feet.
Oh,
meaning they could see the ball faster.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense given what their skill set requires.
Right. So it's just kind of an interesting like. It's tough because you do get cases of people being like, "Oh, I was told I couldn't do this, but I practiced really hard and I did it." But that's another piece of it. You have to have that desire. You have to have the environment, and that's not just like, okay, a supportive environment does not just mean everyone telling you can do it. It means like financially supportive,
like
psychologically
making
supportive.
sure that you're eating enough, you're sleeping enough, you're getting proper relaxation and rest on top of everything else.
Right. So yeah, like you take like a person who was told, I keep thinking of right now is Muggsy Bogues, the like 5 foot tall basketball player.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure he probably got told by people, oh, you can't do it. And then just practice. But like, I'm sure he also would probably tell you, like, I don't know enough about him, frankly. I just know he's the famously super short basketball player.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would tell you that a coach or a teacher or his parents or a combination really supported that effort. And even if they maybe in the back of their mind weren't sure he could do it, they helped him to do it as much as he wanted to.
Yeah.
So it's not just that he practiced really hard and worked really hard. It's that he had support to do it and desire to do it. And yeah, probably a predisposition to it, because genetically there are certain people who are just never going to be good at sports.
Yeah. Just like there's going to be people who aren't good at math, or I don't know, don't take direction well.
Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting to think about. I like the Bruce Lee quote though. Like, I think that's a fun, like, that very much ties into the stuff that we've talked about. Like, remember when we talked about the Dodon ray and how you have to, like, you flick a coin and then a heavier coin, and then you start being able to flick that coin with your air force.
Yeah.
Until you can, like, flick the air in front of you so hard that you, like, blow up trees and stuff.
Sure. That's a perfectly logical progression. Makes perfect sense.
That Bruce Lee quote just kind of, like, reminds me of that. Like, yeah, no, I don't fear someone who says they have 10,000 moves. I fear someone who tells me they've been practicing for 10,000 hours and has 5. Like,
I mean, to be honest, like, if you met a guy who was like, I could kick your butt, but I only know how to throw a right hook, that's pretty scary. The dude's only needed one move to win every time. I mean, yeah, you should probably be wary of that.
Oh, you know what movie that immediately reminded me of is Snatch.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever seen Snatch?
I have not, unfortunately.
Okay, I think it's a Guy Ritchie movie. It stars Brad Pitt and Jason Statham. And, like, the central theme that's kind of running through it is there's this huge diamond, and it gets eaten by a, like, fight dog, like a pit bull fight dog. Oh. And this dog then keeps, like, winding its way through all the characters of the movie who are, like, various types of underground ruffians. And whether they are people who are just, like, trying to run illegal gambling rings or illegal boxing rings or an actual legitimate crime lord. It's this, like, mildly humorous. It's a very funny, fun movie. Right. Brad Pitt plays this character who's like a bare knuckle boxer.
Okay.
And he instantly drops people with a right hook, like, every time.
Yeah, see? You're afraid of that character, right?
Yes. Exactly. It's also a very Eastern sort of philosophy of don't do a bunch of things decently, do one thing really, really well.
Sure. And I could see how that would be beneficial, like, as a cultural philosophy, because you know, as your society expands and starts to progress, there's going to be more and more, like, niche things that you need people to do.
Mm-hmm.
And getting people to specialize is one of the things that eventually, like, you know, makes your economy explode and all kinds of crazy good stuff starts happening.
Yeah, it's definitely something I wish we would adopt more of that mentality of in the West, and more of a mentality of not to get overly political, but I think everyone knows where we stand on certain things, of trusting the people who have done this their entire lives.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, maybe the guy who's done this for 30 years might know a thing or two about how to do this properly.
Much like you would fear the boxer who can knock anyone out with just his right hook, you
fear
should
the
probably,
government worker that has never done anything else.
you should probably trust the doctor of virology studies who has been studying virology their entire lives. Maybe.
No, that can't be true.
Just like my job. My job in my real world is like a boring office job, but I have a specialty. And if the dude in the office next to mine tried to come in and tell me how to do it, I'd be like, no, you're wrong. or, hey, that's actually a good idea. Let's talk about it more. And I'm the expert on it.
Yeah. Expertise is a real thing, folks. Like we all know that, right?
We should.
I agree. We should.
But so yeah, that's just kind of where my mind went to with that. It was just interesting that 10,000 was the number, because that seems like that could very easily seems like it could be something that comes from the Bruce Lee quote. Like
I always thought it was funny that it's 10,000 instead of 7,000, especially after the bit we discussed about 7,000 kind of being like colloquially translated as like endless or
8,000
or 8,000. Sorry, yes, that's what it was. So yeah, why 10,000 not 8,000?
And it could be because of the Bruce Lee quote. Frankly, like
that seems likely.
We've talked about how Toriyama definitely liked Bruce Lee. He talked about it. He said Enter the Dragon is his favorite movie. One of the 15 movies he said is his favorite movie. Even though this stuff is filler, we've also talked about how A, he was more involved in filler than we sometimes think, and B, the anime team was pretty keyed in onto the things that he liked.
Absolutely.
And so they could have been like, oh, he liked Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee would have trained this way, so let's have Goku train this way. Makes sense. It tracks.
Indeed.
And so that's where that comes from. If you're ever wondering why Goku punches 10,000 times before moving on to the next gravity level, it's because of Bruce Lee.
As a kid, I just thought he was insane. But yeah, that's way better.
I mean, he also is insane.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
He received a large traumatic head blow as a child that never received proper medical attention.
You know what? I actually kind of feel bad about saying that now.
But so yeah, these are like to go back. This is a good batch of episodes, not great, and this was all we could really come up with for these ones because nothing new is introduced in them at all.
Yeah, it's mostly just people playing hot potato with Dragon Balls.
We're gonna have a new thing coming up very soon, though. So I think that's all I've got around Zenkai.
That's all I've got.
Both actual Zenkai and the new meaning of Zenkai.
I mean, that's what I took away from this conversation, if nothing else.
If you've taken nothing else away from this conversation, please start using Zenkai to mean.
Don't do Zenkai boosts at home, kids. Okay, well, now that that's over with, can you just please finally describe to the listeners what we've been doing, what we've been following, what we saw out our windows, why we're here, what you saw back on that planet when you blew up the gravity well? Anything, please?
I always could.
So then why haven't you?
I have my reasons.
Which are?
Important and varied.
Okay, so just give me one then. Any one. One reason you've been so cagey with our listeners.
Well, so the thing about that is that, look, I shouldn't have to explain myself.
Why not?
There's good reasons for that, too.
which are...
What are the reasons I'm being so cagey? Find out next time and help us achieve our final forum.
Final Form is written and produced by Tom Gwelly. It is performed by Dan Kinney and Tom Gwelly. Our webmaster is Dan Kinney. Our theme music is provided by YouTube content creator GVG Kit. Want to learn more about the Dragon Ball universe, including concept art, behind-the-scenes interviews, and recommendations from Jelli and Bekinney? Connect with us on social media. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Final Forum Pod. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you receive your podcasts. And of course, make sure to share it with your friends and family and help us spread the word of the glory of Lord Frieza. The Frieza Force thanks you for your listenership.